live on LinkedIn and YouTube at the same time because I have the technology. How fantastic. Today, I want to talk about an effective way to run A/B and split tests. Now, I know that I've got a bunch of marketers in my network. I've spent a lot of time with a lot of the marketers in the Consultancy Growth Network today. In fact, on our regular Marketers in Consulting calls. Do check out the network if you're in a consultancy and you're not yet a member, or reach out to me and I can make an introduction, because it's a fantastic community of growing consultancy firms and well worth being a part of. Okay, so today I want to talk about a methodology that we've used for effective A/B testing that's called Beat the Control. And I don't know who came up with this strategy. I would love to attribute it to whoever came up with this idea. But I think it's more important that I put this in your world if you're not using it already. So here's what it kind of boils down to. The concept is that whenever you're running an A/B test, before you get started, you have a version of whatever marketing asset it is that you're using, whether that's an email, could be a lead magnet, could be a landing page. That is the kind of the item, the asset, the focus of your test. That is your control version. It's whatever is already out in the world kind of working for you to a degree, or it's the first version of this page asset that you've created. And the idea with Beat the Control is that if that's your A version, then your B version is designed to beat the performance of that original control version. So let's say, for example, that an email that you send out to your list, to your subscribers, on average gets a 22% open rate, and you want to increase it. So let's say you want to get it to 25, 30%. You create a B version, and then you would effectively change aspects of that B version to see if it gets a better performance than the original. Now, I'll talk about the kind of metrics, the intent, because there's a process to this. But essentially, that is the idea. You are beating the control. And if you don't, then of course the control wins and you create another version. Let's call it a C version to try and again beat the control. So here are my 3 tips for how to run effective A/B tests using the Beat the Control version. Tip number 1, identify a problem in your marketing journey. This could be diving into your customer acquisition journey. It could be looking in your tools like HubSpot, for example, or MailChimp, whatever the marketing technology you're using, and your analytics to identify what are the bottlenecks in your process. Now, if you've heard me speak before, you may have seen my Dam Buster process, where we look at the different stages of your customer journey and identify what are the conversion rates at those conversion points throughout that journey, so that we can identify where are the bottlenecks. And then you can really hone in on what it takes to fix it. Now, in terms of your process for fixing those, underperforming conversion rates, this is where your A/B testing comes in. But first, you've got to identify it. You've got to have that reporting in place, the right analytics, the right kind of metrics available to tell you this is where your problem is. So, for example, it could be between visitation to your landing pages or your website and the rate at which they opt in on that page. Let's say your conversion rate on a landing page is below your target. You wanted 20% plus, you're getting 13%. So they've done it. You've identified a problem, you've identified a bottleneck. That becomes the subject of your A/B test and your Beat the Control strategy. Tip number 2, after you've done that, you then hypothesize. You have to create tests. And there are a few essential components to any test. First off is the subject itself. What is it that we're trying to fix? The asset, if you will. We've just identified the problem and where we need to hone in. The next is, what is it that we're looking to affect? What is the goal? So let's say it's an email, for example. As I said earlier on, we're looking for a higher open rate. An open rate of a particular number could be our goal, getting it from 20% up to 30%, for example. So the idea there is that we only change, this is kind of a sub-tip, we only change one thing, because we need to be able to say with confidence that what we've changed has been the cause of the uplift in performance. So for example, if we changed the subject line, as well as the intro text, as well as the call to action, as well as the image that we're using, if you're attaching an image to an email, if we changed all of those things and made them all different to the control version, and then we got some uplift in performance, Fantastic, you might say. We've done the job. We've improved on the control. But do we know why? Have we learned anything from the process? We've changed a few too many things. So how can we say with confidence that, for example, the subject line was what got us the improved performance? We couldn't. So we break it down. And each of those 4 elements I just mentioned, for example, the subject line, the intro line, the call to action, the image, they could each be different hypotheses that you test. So you could have a B version, whereas the subject line, a C version, where you're trying to improve it based on the intro text. A D version could be the CTA, an E version could be the image. So you do that, and then tip number 3, can't count, is to iterate on that. So as I've just described, you have those other hypotheses queued up and you fix one particular asset. And where you're going with this is to the point at which any versions that you create are no longer improving on the performance. They're no longer beating the control. And at that point, you can say with confidence, we've probably done as much as we can do to improve the performance of this particular asset. Let's leave that. We've got to accept it. Whatever performance is giving us, hopefully you've gotten to the point at which it's delivering on goal. Otherwise, perhaps your aspirations were a bit too, your expectations were too high about what the performance was going to be. And then you can move on to the next asset. You can find other problems in that marketing journey, perhaps in different campaigns, try and fix different aspects and aim for different goals. So those are my tips for a beat the control strategy. Identify the problem area, hypothesize on what the different changes need to be in order to get the goal, and then iterate on that until you've reached the point at which you're no longer beating the control. If you want some help with this, we have handily, and it's in the description for this video, put together a template, a beat the control template that's going to help you to build those different hypotheses. It's got some instructions in there about how to run effective beat the control A/B and split test experiments. So that is yours for free. Go and have at it. It's not gated. You don't have to submit any forms or anything. Hopefully that helps to move you forward. So that's me today. Beat the control. Hope you find that useful. I will see you next time.